Hi, fifth graders. I am here with Tuck Everlasting, and today I will be reading chapter 23 to you. All right. It was the longest day, mindlessly hot, unspeakably hot, too hot to move or even think. The countryside, the village of Tree Gap, the woods, all lay defeated. Nothing stirred. The sun was a ponderous circle without edges, a roar without a sound, a blazing glare so thorough and remorseless that even in the Foster's parlor, with the curtains drawn, it seemed an actual presence. You could not shut it out. Winnie's mother and grandmother sat plaintive all afternoon in the parlor, fanning themselves and sipping lemonade, their hair unsettled and their knees loose. It was totally unlike them, this lapse from gentility, and it made them much more interesting. But Winnie didn't stay with them. Instead, she took her own brimming glass to her room and sat in her little rocker by the window. Once she had hidden Jessie's bottle of water in a bureau drawer, there was nothing to do but wait. In the hallway outside her room, the grandfather clock ticked deliberately, unimpressed with anyone's impatience, and Winnie found herself rocking to its rhythm. Forward, back, tick, tock, tick, tock. She tried to read, but it was so quiet that she couldn't concentrate, and so she was glad when at last it was time for supper. It was something to do, though none of them could manage more than a nibble. But later, when Winnie went out again to the fence, she saw that the sky was changing. It was not so much clouding up as it was thickening somehow from every direction at once, and the blank blue had gone to haze. And then, as the sun sank reluctantly behind the treetops, that haze hardened to a brilliant brownish yellow. In the woods, the leaves turned underside up, giving the trees a silvery cast. The air was noticeably heavier. It pressed on Winnie's chest and made her breathing difficult. She turned and went back into the cottage. "It's going to rain, I think," she told the group in the parlor, and that news was received with little groans of gratitude. Everyone went to bed early, closing windows firmly on their way, for outside, though it was almost dark, shreds of the hard brown yellow light lingered on the rims of things, and there was a wind beginning. Small gusts that rattled the gate and set the trees to rustling. The smell of rain hung sweet in the air. "What a week this has been," said Winnie's grandmother. "Well, thank the Lord it's almost over." And then Winnie thought to herself, yes, it's almost over. There were 3 hours to wait before midnight, and nothing whatever to do. Winnie wandered restlessly about her bedroom, sat in her rocker, lay on her bed, counted the ticks of the hall clock. Beneath her excitement, she was thick with guilt. For the second time in 3 short days, though they seemed many more than that, she was about to do something that she knew would be forbidden. She didn't have to ask. Winnie had her own strong sense of rightness. She knew that she could always say afterward, "Well, you never told me not to." But how silly that would be. Of course, it would never occur to them to include such a thing on their list of don'ts. Oh, she could just hear them saying it and almost smiled. "Now, remember, Winifred, don't bite your fingernails, don't interrupt when someone else is speaking, and don't go down to the jailhouse at midnight to change places with prisoners." Still, it wasn't really funny. What would happen in the morning when the constable found her in the cell and had to bring her home for the second time? What would they say? Would they ever trust her again? Winnie squirmed, sitting in the rocker, and swallowed uncomfortably. Well, she would have to make them understand somehow, without explaining. The hall clock chimed 11. Outside, the wind had stopped, Everything, it seemed, was waiting. Winnie laid down and closed her eyes. Thinking of Tuck and May, of Miles and Jessie, her heart softened. They needed her to take care of them. For in the funny sort of way that had struck her at the first, they were helpless. Or too trusting. Well, something like that. Anyway, they needed her. She would not disappoint them. May would go free. No one would have to find out. Winnie would not have to find out. That May could not. But Winnie blocked that picture from her mind, the horror that would prove the secret. Instead, she turned her thoughts to Jessie. When she was 17, would she? If it was true, would she? And if she did, would she be sorry afterwards? Tuck had said, it's something you don't find out how you feel until afterwards. But no, it wasn't true. She knew that now, here in her own bedroom. They were probably crazy after all. But she loved them anyway. They needed her. And thinking this, Winnie fell asleep. She awoke with a jerk sometime later and sat up, alarmed. The clock was ticking steadily. The darkness was complete. Outside, the night seemed poised on tiptoe, waiting, holding its breath for the storm. Winnie went out to the hall and frowned up at the clock face in the shadows, and at last she could see it, for the black Roman numerals were just barely visible against their white background. The brass hands glowed faintly. As she peered up at them, the long hand snapped forward one more notch with a loud click. She had not missed her moment. It was 5 minutes to midnight. Okay, so that was chapter 23. And if you remember from the previous chapter, she is supposed to meet Jessie out by the fence outside her house at midnight so that she can help May escape the jail cell. So she hasn't missed her moment. She did fall asleep, but she woke up in time. So in that particular chapter, Winnie talked a little, like she was doing a lot of thinking all day because it was really kind of a boring day. Plus she was probably feeling a little nervous and anxious. So a lot of thoughts were going through her mind. And one of the thoughts and the scenes that kept coming to her mind was what could happen to May if they weren't able to get her out of the jail cell. And so Winnie had that picture in her mind, she said, of the scene that would prove the secret. So think about what that means and maybe what scene must be in her head. She said it was horrifying. So, I mean, like I said yesterday, or like I said in my agenda actually, a lot of these ideas that this book is bringing up, it's a great book, but there can be some disturbing thoughts that come to your mind with what's happening. So if you have any questions or you feel kind of weird about things or it makes you a little nervous or anxious, you can always contact me and we can kind of talk about some of the things that are happening in the book. But I hope you're enjoying the book at least, even though it has some really grown-up ideas in it. Okay, guys. Thank you.